Good evening. I'd like to call to order the January 7th, 2026 meeting of the Titusville Planning and Zoning Commission. Please stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please, Lori.
Chairman Aton,
Here.
Vice Chairman Childs.
Here.
Secretary Grant, Member Faison.
Here.
Member Garrod,
Here.
Member Scully,
Here.
Member Gillen. Here. Alternate Member Seidler.
Here.
Alternate Member Troutman.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. Next item is approval of the minutes of December 3rd, 2025. Does anyone have any additions, changes, or comments? If not, get a motion. Vice Chairman Childs.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
I'll second.
Second, Member Gallon. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved. Could we get the quasi-judicial confirmation procedures, please?
Good evening. During the public hearing portion of the meeting, anyone wishing to speak on a quasi-judicial item must first sign a public hearing agenda card and sign the oath contained thereon. These cards are located on the table at the front of the council chamber. Those speaking in favor of request will be heard first, those opposed will be heard second, and those who wish to make a public comment on the item will speak third. The applicant may make a brief rebuttal if necessary. Witnesses may be cross-examined by the applicant, commission staff representatives, and such other representatives as authorized by the commission. If you have photographs, sketches, or documents for the Planning and Zoning Commission to consider, they must be submitted into evidence and will be retained by the city. Please submit such exhibits to the city clerk or their representative. City clerk representative, have all persons wishing to speak before this Planning and Zoning Commission signed an oath card?
Yes.
Is there anyone else present who has not signed an oath card who wishes to speak on a quasi-judicial item? If so, please submit a card at this time. Have all agenda items been properly advertised?
Yes.
In the event that a member has received ex parte communication, verbal or written, the identity of the person with whom the communication took place and the substance of the communication must be disclosed, including opinions and facts discussed. Any written communications must be made part of the record. Have the members visited any sites or spoken to any members of the public regarding an item to be reviewed?
No.
No. That's all. Thank you.
All right, thank you. This next item is our first petitions and requests from the public present. You do not need to fill out a card and can speak on anything that's not on the agenda.
Good evening, Vicki Conklin. So I have a procedural question, and that's regarding Gemini Lakes. We were here December 3rd at your last meeting of 2025, and there was a unanimous vote for continuance of the Gemini Lakes project until the first meeting in January. January 7th was stated as date certain. I don't see it on the agenda tonight. Perhaps it should have been under old business, and maybe it got overlooked, but it probably might require some action on your part if it's not being held tonight, at least an acknowledgement, or to move it forward to when they do want to have it. Procedure. Thank you.
City Attorney, any comment on that?
This time, it's my understanding that the applicant requested the continuance of the last meeting and has not requested it be placed on this meeting. When they do request it be placed on a meeting, it will be re-advertised.
But it was requested for January 7th specifically. It should be addressed tonight, at least to another motion for continuance.
I think the difference is, and City Attorney, please correct me if I'm wrong, if they choose to pull it, then they have to go through and pay for re-advertising and everything, versus if we do a date certain, they don't have to pay for the re-advertisement, I believe was the way it was explained to me. But it sounds like they pulled it completely, but please correct me if I'm...
If certain other specifications are met, that's correct. But as far as pulling it before this, they have the ability to do that, and it will have to be re-advertised for a future meeting.
So you're, may I ask? So
Sure.
You're saying then that it's, that application has been totally pulled. Is that what you're saying?
I guess the comparable word would be withdrawn. So if the applicant withdraws something, there's nothing to be heard. they just have to reapply, re-advertise, all of that takes place?
I'll defer to staff. My understanding is that it wasn't pulled completely from application for the city, just for this hearing was not being heard.
Okay, yeah, because I'm looking in the minutes here, and it says that the applicant has requested that this item be continued to the January 7th meeting. So I guess that's where the question is. So they have the right to change, but then,
Yes, I mean, so they requested continuance to this meeting, but then they requested further continuance, and
But-
that was why it was pulled off this
So
agenda.
for the public, if it's not on the advertisement for this meeting, it's not going to be heard. There's no way, just because they mentioned it at a previous meeting, that we approved it to be heard at this meeting, it still would have to show up on the advertisement. So you would, if you watch the advertisements, you'll know when it's going to come before us, because we can't hear it unless it's been advertised for that particular meeting, whatever meeting that might be.
Mr. Chairman, I guess my question, and everybody's raising a good point. That's why I said the word that would come to my mind is withdrawn. If an applicant, I'm sorry, in my experience, if an applicant withdraws the request, whether it's been continued or would be heard, up until the point the withdrawal takes place, it's following the advertised procedural date. If they walked in the meeting and say, I'm withdrawing it, and walked out, that'd be the end of the process. If you wanted to reapply the next day and start over at cost and expense and time, that's their prerogative. But if they've withdrawn it, that's the question I've had. Did they withdraw it after the last meeting where it was continued? And if it's withdrawn, then you're going to get re-advertisement, re-notification of the next meeting to be heard at. So are the two the same, that withdrawn or postponed, or that's the question I have from what you're telling me.
I'll, as I said, defer to staff on this. My understanding is that the application has not been withdrawn. It was just pulled from the agenda. So the application is still pending before the city. It's just not up for discussion at public hearing at this time.
Thank you.
Yeah, Vice Chairman Child.
Yeah, so so for them doing the continuance, do they have to pay another fee if it goes past a certain time, or have to reapply or anything like that?
So they were requesting a continuance outside of the date certain. So I think things arised, and they decided that they weren't going to be ready in time for this meeting, so they were requesting a continuance to another meeting, which would require a re-advertising, so.
So when we did the continuance last time, we didn't do date certain. Is that what you're saying? Because we just.
Well, I believe it was
Oh,
to
it
a
was
date
date
certain
certain.
to
Okay.
this meeting date. However, I think since that happened, I think the applicant realized they weren't going to be ready for this date. So they requested an additional continuance, which will require additional advertising to be done for those meeting dates.
Okay.
All right. Any other petitions or requests from the public present? Sure.
I know we read this. The petition and request from the public, correct?
Yes.
All right. My name is Stan Johnston, and I'm wearing a shirt. This shirt has to do with some dirty politicians that happened at the last election. It's the worst I've ever seen in my life. Worst I've ever seen. And that has to do with someone who was running for mayor, and they prepared this sign, a picture of happened to be this lady here, Vicki Conklin, and on this picture, big picture of her, it showed that she was a Democrat. He won the election by, if you take the votes, the difference in the votes divided by 2, he won this election by a little over 100 people. That's the dirtiest I've ever seen. I've been here for 53 years. Never seen anything worse than this. So that's why it says here, fire city mayor. That's Mr. Conklin. No, not Mr. Conklin, Mr. Connors. Mr. Connors, and I think it's such a dirty thing that we need to have something done about it. Again, I said, I've been here for 53 years. Worst thing I've ever seen happen in an election. Worst. Dirty politicking. So I just want y'all to take that note. And I'm very much against him continuing being mayor. And whatever I can do that is legal, that is truthful, that is, how can you say it? I'll do whatever I can to get him out that is going to be truthful and legal. I think there's some people here that would agree with that. She probably would. Okay? Thank you very much for listening to this, and I'd like you to join me and to get him out of office. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else care to speak? Okay. Next item is, we have no old business, so moving on to new business. Item 9A, I know we received an email that said that one was with whatever the proper term is.
Yes, this will be continued and re-advertised.
Okay. So we have no action on that tonight. Item 9B.
So that would be the semi-annual report from July to December 2025, and we would just be requesting a recommendation of approval.
Okay. Does anyone on the dais have any comments? Have you had a chance to look it over? I believe we just approve it to be forwarded to council is my recollection. So I think we need a motion to approve.
I'd make a motion to approve the semi-annual report
As presented.
as presented.
Second.
Seconded by Member Scully. Roll call vote, please, Lori.
Member Garad,
Yes.
Member Scully,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Childs,
Yes.
Member Gillen,
Yes.
Member Troutman,
Yes.
Member Faison,
Yes.
Chairman Aton.
Yes. Okay, that's approved unanimously. Moving on to 9C.
All right, good evening. My name is Christy Anderson. I'm Senior Planner. This is a small-scale amendment, SSA 7-2025 for 1400 Elizabeth Avenue. The applicant is requesting a small-scale comprehensive plan amendment with a rezoning on approximately 3.61 acres of land located at the northwest corner of the intersection of Elizabeth Avenue and Queen Street for the construction of 32 multifamily units contained within 8 quadruplex buildings. The request intends to change the current future land use designation from low-density residential to high-density residential and rezone the property from single-family medium-density R1B to multifamily high-density residential R3 to support the intended multifamily development. The property is part of the Druid Hills subdivision platted in 1927 and has since remained vacant. Queen Street provides direct access from the development to 2 collector roadways, South Delion, which is approximately 850 feet to the east, and Barnett Avenue, which is 760 feet to the west. A concept plan has not been provided with the request, therefore the analysis of the report has reviewed the request at the maximum potential build-out scenario. If the request is approved, the maximum potential build-out of the property would increase from 18 single-family residential units to a maximum of 54 multifamily residential units. The subject property is located within an area consisting of a mixture of residential zoning categories and land uses. The existing and proposed future land use and zoning maps have been provided for your reference on page 166 and 167 of your packets. The single-family medium-density R1B with low-density residential land use is located to the north and to the west and has a maximum density of 5 dwelling units per acre. The single-family high-density R1C zoning with medium-density residential land use is located to the southeast and has a maximum of 6.7 dwelling units per acre. The multifamily high-density residential zoning district with high-density residential land use is located to the east and has a maximum of 15 units per acre. As an alternative to the applicant's proposed request, staff is recommending the multifamily medium-density residential R2 zoning with a medium-density residential land use designation, permitting a maximum of 9 multifamily dwelling units per acre, and would provide a transition between the existing low-density residential and high-density residential. An application has also been submitted subsequent with this request to vacate the rights-of-way. Zurich Avenue and Yale Street are 2 unimproved rights-of-way. Zurich Avenue is located to the north of the property and runs east to west. Yale Street is located through the center of the property and runs north to south. The vacation of the proposed rights-of-way would potentially add approximately 0.85 acres to the site. Page 135 of your packets provides a chart summarizing the build-out potential of the site with and without the right-of-ways under the existing proposed and alternative land use and zoning. The proposed high-density residential future land use map amendment and multifamily high-density residential R3 zoning is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan and land development regulations. However, staff found that the alternative multifamily density residential future land use with multifamily medium density residential R2 would be a more appropriate, as it would provide a transitional buffer between the existing low residential density to the west and the high density residential to the east. The proposed R3 would permit a maximum of 15 dwelling units per acre, providing a maximum of 54 multifamily dwelling units, exceeding the applicant's proposed density of 32 units by approximately 22 additional units. The alternative R2 zoning would permit a maximum of 9 dwelling units per acre, which would provide a maximum of 32 multifamily dwelling units, meeting the project's proposed density. And I'd be happy to take any questions that you have from staff at this time.
Vice Chairman Child.
The vacation of the road, I didn't see it on any, is there an image of it anywhere? Because I even looked like on the satellite view and I couldn't find like
166,
160.
187, you'll see the land uses and you'll see the road they're vacating.
Correct, yes.
Which one
Those
is it?
maps will indicate, and then
166 of page 187.
Oh, is it over? Oh,
So the roads go north to south, parallel with
Correct.
Elizabeth Street.
oh, so Zora, but because which one is it?
It's
so
right
Yale,
there.
Yale Street is running through the middle of the subject property.
I'm
And,
still not seeing that.
oh,
So, let's see.
Do you
Hold
see
on,
the,
let's see.
Yeah, you want to look at the land use display.
see the 2 red blocks? So
Oh,
that's,
so, sorry, okay, I see what you're saying. I see. So that is the street. I don't know why I didn't even think that was, because there are 2 separate boxes, right? So it's the right through the middle.
also the block to the north as
yeah,
well.
and then 164 is the property survey as well, which will indicate those areas for you.
I see. I see. I guess in the description it said east to west, but is this oriented? Okay.
North to south.
Yeah, it is oriented.
It's basically a
north to
T
south. Okay.
that runs through.
Oh, okay. I see it now. All right, thank you.
Member Faison.
Chairman, I will be abstaining from tonight's vote. The previous owner of this property, I was partners with him in trying to develop this beforehand. So I'm very familiar with what they're doing there and what they're asking. And so I will not be voting tonight on this, but I will speak on it, but I will not be voting.
Okay, and I'm assuming there's a form I think you have to fill out. Okay. I don't know why my display just says alternate member, but.
Okay. You want to go ahead
Well,
first?
no, it's got you.
got me?
So,
Okay.
you can go next,
right.
Member Troutman.
My question about the right of way is
Oh, okay, sorry.
is who owns that right of way right now? The property owners?
So that's a public right-of-way currently, but it's unimproved. So
Right,
there was
okay.
no road ever built within those areas.
Sure, but the city owns that right now, correct?
Correct.
So vacating that, is that something that they buy, they purchase, they give? How is that property?
No, through the right-of-way vacation process, there is no sale. It's for, basically, if the right-of-way is not being utilized for public access, then then we are required to release it if requested.
Because usually it was part of the original property.
Correct.
Okay, that's what I was trying to understand, the rights on that.
Alternate member.
Thank you. It's my understanding that the right-of-way vacancy is at a later time, right?
That's correct. You will be hearing that request at a future meeting.
Okay, so today we're being asked to vote on a potential build-out for high density, or and then staff recommended medium density. That is without the right-of-way. So it is my understanding, even without the right-of-way being granted, being as is, if we approved a medium density, that the project could go forward.
That's correct.
That is correct.
That's
So there is no need to do the right-of-way. It's not, we're not listening to that today. And the high density, because they didn't give us a plot map, if we approve high density, then they could do a maximum build-out with a right-of-way of 66 units. Max density without the right-of-way, they could have 54 units. The medium density, which staff has said that they can build without the right-of-way, and that would meet their request for 32 units. If we do grant them right-of-way in the future, they can do 40 units. So at this point in time, they're asking for us to vote on something with a future where we don't have a right-of-way at that time. That's a later future thing. So currently, if we vote medium density without the right-of-way, that project can go forward as they presented at 32 units, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
And Member Garad, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Staff, I have a couple of questions, but I want to footnote that you mentioned you were going to speak on this as a representative.
No, just questions in general.
Okay.
Not as a
So
representative.
lacking a representative, I have to direct my questions to you. I don't believe anybody in the room is a representative of this request.
I don't believe the applicant is here tonight.
That's too bad. So for staff, there's a couple of things that I noticed in the staff report throughout the pages, and I would hopefully be able to give you the pages, but I'm not sure I can do that. So I'll just generalize my comments. One of them, and the most important, I think, is in the latter part, which would be, I did see the pages, 138, 138 of 187, and then again at, I'm sorry to be that way. I had it called up before. Oh, I hate when I have those happen. So to begin with the question, generally speaking, your staff report analyzes that Elizabeth Street separates land use designations from high density from low density residential, with a difference when you go south of this proposed site where medium density residential is west of Elizabeth Street. The reason I find that important is because you're transitioning, as you refer to in the staff report, as the comprehensive plan prefers to do, stepping down from one density or increasing respectfully from one density to another without a huge gap, overwhelming in terms of visual impact, traffic considerations, homogeny of a neighborhood, other matters. So what you generally have in the spatial look of this neighborhood is an area that's transitioning from existing developed single-family home subdivision homes that have been there for quite a few decades. And as things change, and this being vacant land, something has to happen. Your staff report was very well written about the need for housing, and we've spoken about that many times. So the premise is you're going to have a change in use, inevitably, from older neighborhoods to newer ones, especially with vacant, undeveloped land available. But the transition in the page I can't find, and maybe you'll remember where it was written, since I think maybe you made the staff report, speaks about that both the request by the applicant for high density as well as the staff recommendation of medium density are consistent with the comprehensive plan. There's a page I read that on, and I'm sorry I can't just grab it up here real quick. However, in the report, you also focus on this transitional density, the step down, as I refer to it, whereby you would create an impact potentially that is disproportionate to the existing neighborhood. Taking vacant land and turning it into high-density townhomes or high-density apartments takes place at a higher volume of homes, therein being a differential. So on one side of the comprehensive plan, you report that you need to look at transitional changes when you mingle land uses, especially if you're changing them. Even though the density per se is consistent with the comprehensive plan, which is what the statement in the report says, I think that's a quote, I find it to be inconsistent for the very reason reported in the report, that the transition is going not as a step down from medium density as it is across the street to medium density facing one another, transitioning from medium density down to the existing land use of low density, existing single-family homes that are probably not subject to redevelopment, not in the context this vacant land is. So my point to make for the commission is that I don't find this request consistent with the plan in whole. It may be consistent with the plan for a specific matter like density allocated in this area based on a road access, but it's inconsistent with the plan who prefers to see transitional land uses occur and not the step down being I lost the word of the day. Stark, that's a good word. And so I just wanted to put on the record my opinion reading your report and seeing the future land use elements defining these. I myself find it to be inconsistent to make such a drastic change between land uses abutting one another. The second question I've got in terms of the staff report is talking about collector roads. There's been several public meetings we've had where this issue of the future land use plan allocates a land use preferred or required. It's preferred in some sections of the land development code. We've had discussions about what's the word mean, interpretations. This acts like that. We talked about several times. And then required. So in this instance, this land use requires access onto a collector road. But the analysis says the collector road is in Elizabeth Street or Queen Street, it's Barna. So I wanted a little clarification on how a collector road is by accessing over non-collector roads or local streets.
Staff felt that because of the large swath of R3 multifamily high density is directly next to this subject property, albeit it's separated by a roadway, that could be considered an extension of that existing R3 area, which is directly adjacent to South Deleon, which is a collector roadway.
But the first question I can understand, you kind of have two chapters of the same book. One alludes to compatibility based on adjacency, and the other alludes to or specifies or suggests, perhaps would be the better word, that transitionally this would be a kind of a big leap, going from a change from low density to high density, that transitions from low density across the change in land use recommended by staff of medium density across the street, a thoroughfare, into high density, a high density that is the redevelopment potential. It's not existing as high density. So myself, I would kind of say I think chapter 1 is more important than chapter 2, given that we have no development of a high density multiple family dwellings east of the site and across the street, literally. And we have existing development, homesteaded for decades, impacted potentially, whether impacted negatively or positively is a matter of question. It's an impact because it's not single-family homes on detached single-family lots. It's multiple family buildings. So I'm going to pick the chapter 2, not chapter 1, for my belief in what's consistent with the plan. The second question goes back to the theme of getting increased traffic volumes on local streets. The density is the measure by which you know the impacts. You take an analysis of something and you're going to throw into the analysis machine how many dwellings is it and how many trips that generates. The reason you have collector road necessitates access into multiple family is usually because you have higher traffic volumes. And with apartments and dwellings that are consistent with rental income, you have a different type of apartment dwelling density traffic volume than you have for detached single-family homes. So the question I beg is, there is no collector road serving this site. It goes through a local street, the neighborhoods that are adjacent, that are existing, and lived with the type of traffic a 5-decade-old subdivision would be typically witnessing. And then all of a sudden, you're going to come in with multiple family in a matter that's going to increase those traffic volumes. And Elizabeth Street, if I'm correct, please correct me if I'm incorrect, is a local street. It is not a collector road.
That's correct.
But because Elizabeth gets out to Barna, Barna being the collector road, then it's consistent with the plan.
Well, staff feels that the existing area within it basically the existing R3 and as well as the existing medium density residential to the south are extensions. So albeit all of those are very, valid observations, it's very difficult when we have areas that are
Infill.
and then this location is definitely a mixture. So your point to being abutting single-family residential, does that have more weight than the, across the roadway to the existing R3? I think those are all valid observations. I think staff felt that within this area and just trying to infill with a variety of different land use types, which is something that we, strive for. It was just kind of a hard determination to make.
And I'm not trying to grill you on it. I'm trying to predicate what my opinion is and to speak out to the commission
Understood.
members so they know where I'm going to be
Yes.
coming from. So in the latter question of the, and it's a more technical one, so if you can't answer it, I understand. In the description, this will be preferred to be subdivided. And the development type that becomes subdivided when you have attached housing typically could be one story, but it becomes townhomes or one-story buildings that are subdivided down a common wall. However, a subdivision of multiple family buildings may also otherwise be a subdivision around the land of which contains a building. If I use terminology, it makes sense, a fourplex, a sixplex, or a duplex. You can subdivide the common wall and you can describe that building as a lot, and the block it sits in is the grass, the yard. You can multiply that by 4, 6, you can do 2 stories, and that's a subdivision. The discussion is, what type of subdivision is the applicant proposing? Is it a subdivision of fee simple ownership of the unit, or is it a collective ownership of land with buildings thereon? So I would own a block, and in my block of ownership, I own 4 lots, or 2 lots, a duplex. Now, the subdivision isn't going to let somebody own my building, one of 2 duplexes. It won't let me fee simply title my townhome wall to wall, ceiling to ground, unless I subdivide the land with it. And that's where it gets dicey. You can do that kind of subdivision. It's just not exactly common that you subdivide a building on common walls inside of a block of land. It's more typical to subdivide it into tracts, blocks containing buildings that are subdivided or that are not subdivided. And the whole essence of this for me is it alludes to ownership in one regard, but my experience teaches me to say it sounds to me more like it's a subdivision that results in an ownership of rental properties. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing I'm opposed to it. I just would like and prefer to understand better what the applicant intends by the word subdivision.
Yeah, I don't have that level of detail.
I didn't think you would.
Yeah, nor did they choose to submit the concept plan, so at this time, yeah.
That's my point. The applicant's not here, so I didn't want you to think I'm throwing the baby out with the bathwater. So those are my questions that I have for right now. Thank you very much.
Member Faison.
I know the owner is not here. And again, the gentleman that I knew before, he was part owner of this parcel. I was very familiar with what they wanted to do with the property. But from what I understand, he sold his interest in the property 2 years ago. Okay, but during that time, I saw what the plans were, and so to your question about the right of way was that without them having that vacated right of way, they have no access to their property, so they can build on it unless they put a road down the center of that larger piece. They have no way of getting to the backside. So if you see those two small, there's a red block, right? And that's supposed to be a road there. And so that's why they needed to vacate that so they can build a road so they can get to those parcels. Otherwise, they'd have to build a road in that larger space, and it'd be smaller lots.
So they bought property knowing that that property is owned by the city, and they're depending on the right-of-way being approved. Basically what you're saying, if their plans, what they proposed, they can't do because they need that right-of-way for a road?
I can't tell you their motives. I can only tell you that without the right of way.
2 years ago, that's what they were planning for?
No. So they've owned the property for a while. But what I'm saying is, with the vacation of the right of way, it allowed them to put a road there, is what I'm saying.
Okay, and if it's not vacated, staff still has said they can do
You can
the
build.
32 homes, and that is not necessarily, it doesn't need to be vacated in order for them to do what they've proposed. Is that correct?
Well, that could alter the layout of the property, which would prevent them from getting to that number of units just based on how the property is laid out existing with a 50-foot roadway running through the middle of the property.
I get that, but they're
Yeah.
not here and they've not provided any information to us, so we get to go on
No,
basically what we're guessing.
No, I was just explaining to you why they were asking for the vacation. But I'm not getting to motives. I'm just saying that's why they're asking, so they can build what they want to build. But again,
But you're saying that, but they're not here and they've not
Correct.
said that. You're
Correct.
saying it for them.
no, I'm not saying it for them. I was just explaining to you why they did it. I'm not speaking for them.
Okay.
There's a difference. Okay.
I think right-of-way vacations, especially unimproved vacations for property is typical for new development because the initial, development that where the roads were laid out is no longer feasible, so.
Yeah, I think this area was plotted like in the 20s or 30s.
Yeah, 1927, I believe, was
Yeah.
when this plat was done.
Yeah. And since then, that area has changed names and a lot of things have gone unimproved. So, that's that.
Member Troutman.
Yeah, I have a question when it comes to the units per acre when you have property that is separated like this. I know that before that there's been situations where property's been approved for, say, the total property's 5 acres, but only buildable, like what they could build on is only like 3. And so when you come up with your numbers of 10 or 5 or 15 per acre, I guess from my knowledge, I'm curious on how do you look at buildable land as that acreage or just total land?
No,
Because-
that's based on the acreage and the allowable density, so that does not account for lot coverage, building setbacks, landscaping requirements, things like that. So that will further reduce the available area for development.
Okay, because I've seen in the past where I've seen numbers, 5 acres. Okay, they can build up to 30-something properties for that 5 acres, but 2 of it's a water drainage area.
Correct.
But they use 5 acres as the number, but technically it's 3. So I'm trying to understand that a little bit where with this property here where it's separated, it seems like we're doing the cart before the horse here. It seems like they need to ask for the road to be conjoined to their property, and then we come and then,
I don't think that was the intent. I believe that these applications were submitted basically concurrently, and it's just how the applications have been processed. So ideally, we would have liked to take these simultaneously, but for advertising reasons, things like that, that didn't work out that way. So I believe it will be coming up on one of your upcoming agendas.
okay, so that leads me to that we're trying to vote on something that the road's still there, hasn't been approved for yet, given to them yet or anything, with the hopes of that they get it and everything, right?
I mean, that's based on the layout of their development. So they're not relying on that additional density that's going to come from the right of way I mean, they're not requiring that additional acreage from the right of way for their density calculations. Basically, staff just wanted to point that out. Basically, if we have a maximum of 32 units and that right of way gets vacated, it could be increased up to 40 units based on
Right.
just the acreage. So, and I don't believe that that was the intent. It's just something we wanted to note that could change. And without the concept plan, again, that,
Correct.
opens that up.
I have one more question or observation that I've noticed. On your map at 166 out of 187, to the left, you got the property highlighted in red there in Queen. If you go down to King Street, you have LDR, and then you have MDR, a little sliver of MDR down there. I'm not sure if you remember, but that was Royal Manor Townhomes came across us last year, asking for the same thing, high density, things like that. I believe that we kept it at medium density for the same reasons, but they came back with a concept plan that reduced the properties along the property of that single family low density. They reduced that down to be a less buffer to that side of the single family, but then was came around the corner of their cul-de-sac, then they came back up to the 2-story buildings. Is this something that we could suggest as far as part of this is if they're going to move forward with something like that, to have some kind of a reduced down buffer? Because I understand that you have high density up here across the street, but looking at the aerial images, I don't see any, apartment complexes or anything like that. And I understand the zoning is that, but all I see is a couple of possibly single-family homes, vacant lots based off of the imaging you provided.
So I mean, I believe there are 2 or 3 apartment buildings within that block that's currently zoned R3.
Okay, I haven't drove over there, so I don't know. I'm based off of the.
But yeah, it's definitely a mixture. And then there's vacant residential lots kind of throughout the area. The main difference with the Royal Manor is that they did submit a concept plan. So that
Right.
provided us the ability to analyze that concept plan and add conditions to that. So,
Yeah, I would be very hard pressed
the
to do.
minimum landscape buffer for multifamily residential is a 20-foot landscape buffer. So,
Right. All right, yeah, I'd be kind of hard pressed to go to the high density as well. If we already have other things in the area that are staying medium density and trying to buffer this single family, I'd like this.
when we have an available zoning district and land use that will provide them with the units that they're looking for rather than above and beyond, find that, to where they have reasonable use to develop their project as they wish, so.
Sure.
Member Garad.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Kind of a follow-up in the discussion just taking place requiring subdivisions and also providing for vacations of rights-of-way. Over time, I've witnessed that there was a point, and having a surveyor in the audience may be of some assistance, but there was a potential that during a discussion like this, where you would have a proposed plan, it would be presented as a subdivision plan, in which going through the process of replat of an old plat can vacate existing underlying quote-unquote paper streets. For that matter, it can vacate an existing paved road if the city so approves it. When that happens, however, usually they defer, and more recently, deference has been to provide 2 processes. One for vacation of the right-of-way, making it clean, there's no question it's gone. And then a plat comes in for review where you'd see the road networking that would serve the subdivision. That was why I said as a follow-up, that's why I was so concerned about the generalization. They want to subdivide it. How that subdivision is done can be drastically different looking in terms of accessibility, in terms of public accessibility, or a private accessible subdivision. Private road subdivisions exist. People refer to them as gated communities. That's why I wanted to key in on, without seeing a subdivision, without seeing a plan, to just say, throw it to the wind and let's see where it sticks. is difficult for me, especially in a transitional use between this high density on one side of a street, the other side of a thoroughfare, not just a common boundary, not some woods or trees, an open road right away, and the adjacent contiguous existing constructed single-family homes. So in my opinion, where it's going is, I can't see this being a very good transition if it goes as the applicant requested. And I think staff supports the notion that, on the other hand, you can still develop your project based on the number of units you seek to develop. All we need to do is see a plan of how it's going to work, preferably. And then in terms of the vacation, you'd have to have the vacation if you're going to do something different the way that land's configured. It's just one skinny piece and one bigger piece divided in two. So I would imagine the vacation of a paper street's not too difficult to anticipate coming to us in that manner. And I'm trying to explain this because it's a little bit unusual not to have somebody be able to address each of these questions. So when we get time for the motions, we'll see how we go with where the applicant is.
Member Faison.
All right, so, well, one, I think we have somebody here to speak on this, on this motion now as well, number one. Number two, I had a question about the infill. I believe we went over some infill about scattered lots in already developed areas, that if they were a certain size, that we had some latitude in what we can do with those. And I don't remember the particulars, but I do remember that we did discuss that here. Also, just, again, another thing about the road, when I was with my previous partner with this, one of the issues was about the road. The city wasn't unwilling to build the road there. And so in that vacant area where there's a vacated road there, whoever builds that road has to maintain that road. And so that was the other issue. The other issue was getting utilities to those lots that are farther in, right? Without a road, without utilities in it, how do you get those utilities and where you're tapping it off of? And so there's a lot of additional monies that cost into developing this land. It wasn't just simply vacate the land, it's good to go. It's not. It's real expensive because they got to put in a road, they got to put in utilities to feed those properties that are on the backside back there. And so it's a lot more than just that. But I wanted to just ask about the infill. I know there was a certain lot size, certain dimensions. And so what was that again?
It was 2 acres.
2 acres.
So this project is a little bit over that, but I do believe that it, is consistent with the notion of infill development. It just doesn't quite meet the particulars of our code that we had developed.
Yeah. I'd like to hear from this young man if we could, if you guys would allow that.
Yeah, I have one more question, and then I think that's the last of the day's questions, and we'll open a public hearing. You made the comment that perhaps the vacation associated items and this were submitted at the same time, but somewhere along the process they got separated.
I believe that was the case.
So I want to make sure we're not penalizing the applicant for some bureaucracy on our side.
No, yeah, that's why I wanted to make that statement, because I believe that they were either, submitted concurrently or within that same process. It's just how applications
think
were allocated, that's
The
the way.
general consensus would have been this would have been a lot easier if that would have all come through as a single package like it was submitted. So that said, I don't know the reasoning, and we'll get it maybe from the applicant as to why we still want to go ahead and try to get this done and do the other one separately, or do we table this and they all come through together? But if nobody else has anything, I'll open a public hearing. And you're speaking on behalf of the applicant, or you are the applicant?
Yes, hello guys,
And-
my name is Joshua Wilson.
And you filled out a card?
Yes, sir.
Awesome.
So yes, as I said, I'm Joshua Wilson. My partner, Jeremiah Ofori, has been before you guys previously. We've built about 20 single-family homes in the area, infill lots. We've also had some variances and what have you. This is our attempt at doing a larger project, as you can very well see. To the question of why the packet wasn't submitted together, there was no bureaucratic red tape on you guys' end. The building department has been phenomenal in supporting us through our development efforts. We had a very challenging time with the utilities, communicating with FP&L specifically. Spectrum was pretty straightforward, AT&T, but getting those letters, getting those guys responsive was very, very challenging. So that's why we ended up getting pushed and things got separated. To your question also with respect to respecting the existing density of the single-family residence to the west of the property, we have no intention of developing the western piece except for using it as a retention pond to support the stormwater criteria for the quadruplexes that we're developing. So we are aware of the need to have a buffer in that transition zone. So our site plan, it was not submitted with this. We did go over it in pre-planning with the building department. We just did not submit because of some potential of whether or not we would have to create, let's say, a CDD or an HOA or something in terms of meeting the financial obligations to, as we said, maintain some of the aspects of the property. So we wanted to have some flexibility to potentially change what we were going to do moving forward to meet some of those costs. And as terms of the roadway, we do want to vacate Queen and, not Queen, Yale and Zeruth Avenue to allow us to make the eastern portion of the parcel as usable as possible. Were there any other questions that I missed, guys?
Member Faison.
Good afternoon, sir. So Mr. Williams was my partner from before.
Okay.
All right, and so we were working on this parcel before. And so now I'm glad that you're here so we can talk about that, okay? So you've seen his original plan, right?
Correct.
Which had 10 homes, 10 single-family homes along Elizabeth, and then down that road would have been a couple of quadruplex on that larger side. And so his plan was that, but the city would have to had agreed to 50-foot lots, and they weren't willing to do that. And so he sold his half. I guess he sold his parcel to you guys. So thank you guys for purchasing it and moving in. How large are these quadruplexes that you're looking at building? And then how would they be situated along, would it be along Elizabeth, the quadruplexes?
Correct. So
Conceptually?
yes. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Fox Hollow quadruplex builds that are north of, or excuse me, west closer to 95. We are going to use a very similar plan to what they have. We're going to have 3 2s and 2 2s in our building. What we're going to do is we're not doing a communal parking. You can't do that. So each structure will have its own parking, and we plan to have them recessed a little bit and then have each individual parking lot in front of each building. We'll meet the foliage and the landscape requirements, and we hope to be able to maintain as many of the trees to the eastern portion, again, to create that barrier, the western portion, if you will, to create that barrier between the structures and the existing single family on the backside.
And how many of these quads?
Our goal is for 8 of them.
8 quads?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
And do you have any expectation of the width of that buffer, where you're going to leave the trees between the single-family homes?
I don't presently. Given the density that we are seeking and the span of the parcel, we should be able to maintain a significant amount given the stormwater requirements that we initially calculated. We did it very conservatively because we understand the significance of, the retention in the aquifer and, not flooding neighboring properties downstream. So we overbuilt in the preliminary design, the stormwater system. So we do think that we'll be able to maintain a very visibly appealing amount of trees to, like I said, provide that sightline breakup for those single-family residents.
Member Garad.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A question for you, since I appreciate you being able to represent the applicant and answer some questions rather than grilling staff. The statement you made was relevant to the staff report. 8 times 4 is 32. I didn't do well in math, but I think that's correct. And that's your statement of what you want to do. And the future land use you request provides for excessive density beyond your scope or your statement. Staff's recommendation, following the line that I've been trying to point out about transitional land uses, is that the lower density provided by medium density changed from low density in transition to what's across the street, high density provides for 32 units. So there'd be no benefit to your plan to have high density. That medium density, if that becomes what the recommendation and follow-up to that approval or disapproval provides for.
Yeah.
The vacating the right-of-way, to me, that's all sundry. It's adding a little more square feet. It gives you a calculable thing. You come up with a net density. But your density you seek, 4 times 8, 32, can be provided for in this land mass and be provided for based on the comprehensive plan's future land use designation, medium density residential. And it would act in a better transitional manner between these opposing land uses, high density on one end of the spectrum and drastically different low density on the other end of the spectrum, which would occur if high density is approved. So it seems to me that unless I misunderstood you, you seek to build something as a construction frame mind, but to do so, you have to deal it in a conceptual frame mind. In this case, a color on a map, a land use designation that lasts well beyond what you may not do or what you may do. The land use remains. Whoever comes next uses that land use for what they want to do. Not to discourage you, but that does happen. As you mentioned, Mr. Faison, there was a project and then there wasn't a project. It's kind of like Cinderella goes back to the homely Cinderella as opposed to the princess. So do you see any real difficulty if the medium density that staff supports, both in terms of the future land use and the comparable zoning district, were to be what's recommended that provides for 32 dwellings, your 4 quadruplexes?
No.
That's an easy answer. Make sure the question's clear for the record. I apologize. Thank you.
Member Childs.
So is there a reason, I'm sure there is good reason, there's not a concept plan already? Are you still developing that, or is that also you're waiting for the right-of-way to be vacated? Or, because like, if the rezoning happens and it's all high density, even though you're saying, well, we don't want to develop, the west side, regardless, if it's rezoned that way, you'd still have the right to build there, even though like you're saying your intention is that you wouldn't build on there. But if you sold the property, then there's no binding concept plan to say, hey, we need this, buffer over here. They're like, well, it's already zoned that way. So is there a concept plan that you were planning on? Are you still developing that, or?
So very great question. Thank you for asking. We do have a concept plan, and it has the 8 quadruplexes situated across the eastern portion of the road coming down Elizabeth. And there is one that is off of Queen on the south side, but it's more to the southeastern side. The reason that we did not submit that concept plan as a part of the application, but we did include it in our pre-application discussion with the building department, was because, as I said, when it comes to various costs in terms of whether you guys are going to require, let's say, a traffic study of us and other things down the line, we wanted to have some flexibility in, okay, if we wanted to go from, say, a quadruplex to having a townhome and be able to sell the individual homes off individually, that could be something that would allow us that flexibility.
I mean, I can understand now needing flexibility, I guess. But so mostly it's because you weren't sure what city council or whatever, would want to require of you. So,
Yes.
and then you would have to resubmit if it was too drastic of a change or something, or
Exactly.
something like that.
So I've been a part of several city council meetings with some
Yeah.
of the initiatives that we've had in the past. This is my first time meeting with you guys here at Planning and Zoning. And thank you for having me. But to your point, yes, we wanted to have some of that flexibility. We didn't want to be locked into that concept plan should any unforeseen hurdles come up that would make it too high a bar for us currently, because as the gentleman stated, the road in its current setup that's about a $600,000, $750,000 investment that we have to maintain. And when you talk about single-family homes and you can only have, I think it was a maximum of 15 to 16 units on that parcel, there's no way we can build an affordable product that would justify the after-build values in the area. It just, the math didn't pencil out.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, alternate member.
Thank you. Hi, thank you for coming this evening. My question is, you did mention briefly the potential for an HOA or a CDD for this development. Is that going to occur?
So that is not our intent. Again, that was just we wanted to be able to have the flexibility to have something of that nature to meet any of the potential financial requirements of servicing the community. So ongoing in our dialogue with the building department and going through this planning and zoning and city council process, we have what we would like to do, but should any additional requirements be placed on us that, push the feasibility of the project beyond the financing that we had in place, we wanted to have an option to be able to roll some of that cost, I don't want to say down the line, but
Isn't that what happens with the CDD?
yes.
Okay, so if the costs exceed your expectations, then you want the association or the people who purchase it to pay it back.
That could be an option, yes.
That could be an option. Okay, thank you.
Member Garad.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Your comment on CDDs and HOAs, community development districts by and large are for larger scale projects. I can't say I've seen very many CDDs on that small of a parcel of land by the complexities of a CDD. You were raising some questions just a few minutes ago about how CDDs mature and responsibility. It's really an economy of scale. In my experience, you get a CDD would be Port St. John, not a neighborhood. A homeowners association can do many of the same things, but a different way. So I'm not sure CDD is really going to end up being an avenue for that you could explore. But I'd be interested to know if I'm remembering correctly or not, depending on where we get. But that's my recall on how CDDs work.
I've seen CDDs come up in several of our homeowner association packets that we have been reading. I think it is becoming more common of a option for developers to potentially look at when the costs are exceeding what you want to put out of pocket, and they're looking for reimbursement. And I'm seeing that this is kind of a trend. So I'm just wondering, as you said, there isn't a road, it is expensive, and you're putting 32 townhomes or something on the one side, but you're looking for high density just in case to make up for some of the financial stuff, to give you some leeway.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
And if I may, yes, typically CDs are for larger projects, but again, I just want to harken back to the relationship that we're trying to build with the city of Titusville and the prior initiatives that we've had with the variances that we've requested. And we've done the things that we said we were going to do, and we intend to continue to do the things that we say we're going to do. And I understand the climate of, public opinion in trying to invest in our communities individually and collectively so that way they represent, what we want to have here. And as a resident of Orlando, as someone who has refereed basketball at Eastern Florida State College and every college in the state of Florida, and has lived here for 20 plus years, I can appreciate and respect the desire to uphold the character of our communities. And I know words are a dime a dozen, but I hope that you guys take that into consideration.
Member Trotman.
Yeah, I have one question for staff. At what level does a development meet requirements for HOA or something of that nature? I'm not familiar with does it have to be classified as a subdivision, then it's HOA? Because like, I know Royal Manor Townhomes, I believe that they were going to have to become an HOA because they were going to sell each individual townhome. You can get some clarity on that? That'd be
I
cool.
don't really have an answer for that. I don't have that knowledge. I mean, typically, if you're going to create a condos association, that's going to come hand in hand, but that's out of the scope of my knowledge, so.
Okay, so there's, out of your scope of knowledge, but I guess at the end of it, there's something that says, all right, you meet this requirement, you have to have an HOA, I would assume, right?
I don't recall that being a city requirement, but like I said,
Or a state requirement or something?
possibly,
Okay.
I don't know.
I thought there was something that stated that you did something at a certain level, it
I
become
could
an HOA.
definitely look into that,
Okay.
but I at this time, I don't have a good answer for you.
Okay, thank you. One question for you, sir. On the west side of the property there, I believe for medium density, it's 20-foot buffer of unnatural, or of natural. You can't disturb that area. I think it's 20 feet, I believe. Without the concept plan, I assume that after the 20 feet, that's where you're hoping to build the retention pond?
Correct.
So to speak? And then how wide of this?
On the concept
I don't
plan,
know,
you'll
yeah.
see the stormwater pond spans from north to south, probably 60 to 70% of
Okay.
the entire length of the property.
What's
And then how
the
deep?
width, east to west?
Yeah, east to west.
East to
and depth.
west, I don't have the foot measurement, but it's pretty large. It takes up a majority of that western parcel.
So between the setback or the buffer
There's
and the
plenty.
retention pond, you're getting close to that eastern red line of the west parcel, or where the vacation
Yes, sir.
line is. Okay.
Do you know depth by chance?
I do not. And
Yeah.
that, we'll get into that with our engineer, but I don't have that
Sure.
presently.
And then I guess the only other thing that I would be concerned about, is this a retention pond that actually retains water all the time? Or is it something that is like a dry pond, it catches as needed? Because I know that we have a couple different ones, right? In our city, like we have a retention pond that holds water all the time and then some that are dry, correct?
Yes, that's correct. Typically, in the ACC, the wet ponds are not permitted, so that's
Okay.
typically why you see those dry ponds. But
Yeah.
this property is not located within an ACC area.
Okay, so it could be a wet pond there.
Correct.
Okay, so then, then my only other concern on that is if it could be a wet pond, that area being fenced off or something, we're in a neighborhood, small kids and things of that nature. That would be my only other concern on that. If that is gonna be a retention pond, yeah.
So those safety measures are something that we will, have conversations with the city about what is required. I don't have the particulars in terms of which style pond. Our thinking was more so just meeting the requirements of the drainage and the runoff. So, whatever in conjunction with conversation with the building department is communicated as a preference, we'll gladly oblige and, put forth the necessary safety protocols around that area.
I appreciate that, thanks.
Yes, sir.
Member Garad.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This question is for staff in terms of what land uses requested, what land uses approved, and the discussion about what we're going to do, and the point staff made about having a plan, a site plan or a subdivision plat. With the land use designation and the zoning sought by the applicant, will a site plan be subject to review recommendation by the P&Z and the city council, or is it a staff review based on the land development code?
It depends. So if they're planning on platting the property, then yes, you will be seeing a preliminary plat and a final plat that will have to come before you.
If it's going to be a non-subdivided development,
It would be administratively reviewed and approved by city staff.
and that would mean comments about retention ponds and fencing and those matters of concern tonight won't be visible to recommend that in the future, just as a footnote. The question that you've posed about CDDs, and I don't want to speak out of education, so I'll qualify it by saying, I believe I'm correct. Community development districts allow for a funding source principally, and an extension of public development. Roads would be a good example. In a traditional subdivision, you would see a road. And I'm sure you've seen every road in Titusville in your life, and they all look the same, right? Asphalt, curb and gutter, maybe a sidewalk, maybe not a sidewalk. I'll take you to a fancy land and call it Celebration. Now, if you've ever been to Celebration, you see different roads. You see roads with little benches on them, and you see little marquees in there and signs and flowers and plants, and they are within the road right-of-way, and they are publicly maintained. However, the maintenance cost is deferred to the payments made in assessments to the CDD, which are collected as a tax, as opposed to an HOA. If you have an HOA, you can have fancy flowers in a private road, and the HOA pays for it, and benches and little marquees and things like that. However, if an HOA doesn't get paid, it litigates to collect. And in an HOA, if the litigation doesn't go as planned, where someone coughs up the money, it defaults. And there are HOAs where defaulting on that ends up with nothing in the bank and nothing gets maintained. And what's not being maintained are critical elements like pavement on roads. And you might perhaps have seen that going through subdivisions that are subdivided in a sense, but the roads are private and they're broken up and they call the city, but the city can't fix it because it's private. That's my summary of the difference of an HOA and a CDD, and that's why I said, unless this was going to be Wonderland and it's really exclusive in its architectural and public facility improvements, I can't see a CDD being a viable direction myself. That's why I wanted to explain it long, since you had some questions. And if I'm incorrect, I apologize for misspeaking. I apologize if I'm speaking out of my educational level. But that's what I know about CDDs and led me to my comment earlier about the economy of scale.
Ted, your education is far beyond mine. I just want the record to show.
Okay.
I only presented those items again as a potential tool that we could use should, unfortunately, the goal become cost prohibitive in terms of requirements of if we have to put in a road or what have you. So it is not our intention. And I don't want us to focus too much on that because we do not desire, as poorly as HOAs are viewed in the state of Florida when you look at some of the legislation that has just passed in terms of changing the government's rules or what have you, we do not desire to implement one whatsoever. But should we have to, as a result of processes in our discussions with the building department, then we will explore that.
Thank you.
Member Face.
All right, so I just hope I like to make some things clear,
Yes.
okay? The road that they're looking to vacate, first, can you put all 8 of your townhomes in the current size of that slither along Elizabeth?
No. Only
So you need
7.
more space.
Yes. So that is where there's the one that is going to be on the southeastern side of Queen and Elizabeth, and then the 7 will be on
Elizabeth.
Along Elizabeth.
All right.
Correct.
And so the depth of that lot right now, right, if you wanted to set it back, you need that road to be vacated so they can sit back a little bit.
Correct.
All right. And then, so we talked about roads. Roads are very expensive to put in. All right. Are you guys going to be putting in any roads?
No.
No, because they're very expensive to put in.
Very.
Very expensive. And they're very expensive to maintain.
Extremely.
All right. So all these parcels that you're going to be putting on will be either along Elizabeth or along Queen.
Correct.
All right. So then that just takes care of the road. That allows you, with the vacation of the road, to put your quads back off of Elizabeth a little bit, back off of Queen a little bit. And then, with that road being vacated, the rest of that land back there that's not being used, you're turning that into a retention pond.
Correct.
All right, so I did that slow walk so people can visualize what you're doing. And so when you talk about potentially using HOAs, that's only to pay for said improvements such as cable
Correct.
Or lawn service, or maintaining, if there was a park near that lake,
Exactly.
to maintain that.
To the gentleman's point about, whether it's going to be a full lake or an empty retention pond, we had discussed potentially having some bench seating or some other things in that.
All right, so that's what it is. So if there was an HOA, which, by the way, developers are the ones that determine whether it's going to be HOA or not anybody else. They determine that, right? And because it's part of the deeding process. So if you guys were to do an HOA, it'll be a minimal one to take care of the property that they're all participating in.
That's correct.
Okay, but we don't really want that if we can avoid it.
Yes, sir.
All right, so then what we're looking for are 8 parcels that are built facing the road that it reduces your requirement for paying for utilities, because that tapping on utilities are extremely expensive. So that reduces that cost there. And then we have 7 on Elizabeth, 1 on Queen. There are your 8 parcels, all right? And you're asking for, again, at that medium density would work, and you've already said that you do the medium density.
That's correct. We just, as they say, aim for the stars, you'll end up on the moon.
Gotcha.
Right? It was there. There is precedent for extending existing zoning use across the street, so that is why we decided to ask for it.
And just so that you know, sir, did you guys try to buy the parcel across the street?
We did not, as of yet.
Okay.
No, we didn't.
No worries. Because again, with the medium density, if you take Elizabeth going south, on the other side of Queen, there's been some new development over there. A lot of scattered lots have built a lot of small homes along in that neighborhood of Lincoln Heights there. So there has been some new development in that area of scattered lots, single family scattered lots in that area, and as well as Mr. Stan here talks a lot about the other development that's being on the north side of Elizabeth.
I remember the gentleman. I think
He's right there behind you.
Okay.
That guy's right there.
Yes.
Stan talks about it a lot, and that's a is it high density? That on that corner there?
Yes.
Okay, and so it's high density. So there is some development going on along Elizabeth. You guys are just trying to build there as well.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other, do you have anything else for the,
No, I appreciate you
Okay.
guys. Thank you.
thank you. Any other cards for you?
Yes, Dan Johnston.
My name is Stan Johnston, and I have some concerns about this, because we've been talking about this for about over half an hour, and the problem is that I see, because I'm the engineer of record of at least a dozen subdivisions around here, and I'm a registered engineer and a registered land surveyor. I've been with L.A. Melvin, Lloyd's Ward and Company, TWH Services, so forth. Those 3 companies were here in town. And I'm continuing practicing right now. But some things concerned me about what was mentioned by Mr. Faison. He mentioned that it's required to maintain the streets. That's not true. That's not true. If you build streets, you can have them dedicated to the public. That would be the normal way to do it. So that's not there. And I'm concerned about the choices we have, whether it's going to be R3, R2, or some other kind of, let's see, am I supposed to give my opinion on 3 different things? And then the vacation of the Gale Street, Gale Avenue, that's straightforward. I'd say that would be the first thing to do. Now, Mr. I don't know, Bill or whoever it is, he mentioned that they decided to do this first. Well, that is backwards. It's really backwards. And he said he mentioned about an engineer. No engineer would recommend that you do it this way, because it's backwards. You go ahead and vacate the street first, then you ask for or do it simultaneously. You just don't do it that way. So for those reasons, that also, I've heard it said 18 to 54 units, not 40 units. It could be 54 units at least. So So I'm concerned about what staff is doing and why staff would even allow it to go this way, when I'm going backwards. I mean, staff should have enough common sense to say, this is not the way to do it. You do the vacation first, then you go for the rezone, or you do it simultaneously. This is backwards, completely backwards. That's why I can't approve of this. I'm just, yes, it's like speculative rezoning. You need to know what you got before you rezone it. You should do the vacation first. No question about it. Vacation first. So I'm against it for that very reason. I think it'd be easy for him to go ahead, correct it, or withdraw it, do the rezoning first, because that's the way it should go. I have no, any questions anybody has on this, because I'm an expert on this, actually.
Thank you. Any other cards, Lori?
Yes, Kathleen O'Rourke.
Hello there. Dr. Kathleen O'Rourke. I actually had a question earlier that got answered, but I just wanted to make a comment as I'm listening. As a homeowner in Titusville, and this plan could have the best intentions, but I can't tell you how many things have been rezoned and then sold, flipped, and something else happens. And I'm very concerned about that, and I would really strongly encourage you not to leave that kind of opening for potential problems for the homeowners. Thank you.
Anything else?
Vicki Conklin.
Vicki Conklin. I'd like to kind of second what Kathleen said, even though we didn't talk about it together, but the gentleman certainly has good intentions, and I applaud him for thinking ahead in what he wants to do for the community, but it seems to be pretty poor planning, not well thought out yet, so he's not ready for prime time yet before you all. Sounds like he needs to get his plan together a little bit better, get his financing together, his concept plan together, exactly the road, his situation. There's too many things that are up in the air. The street issue, what impact would it have on the single family next door? I think Councilor, Mr. Garrod has some really good comments with that. If we transition from single family and then all of a sudden we're into maybe 32 units, maybe 54 units, maybe 66 units, there seems to be a lot of things up in the air. If there's not a definite plan that people present when they want to do plans before, I think the city deserves better and the citizens deserve better rather than approve my zoning now and I'll figure it out later and then I'll just submit it to staff. I think we deserve a little bit better than that.
Amen.
Thank you. Any more, Lori?
No more cards.
Okay. I'll close the public hearing. Oh, do you have an opportunity for rebuttal if you choose? You need to do a card.
Hello, I'm Jeremiah Ofori. I guess I'm the principal of the second owner for the property and the development. And I guess, yes, we did choose not to submit right now to give us a little bit of leniency. Our plan is not to build a road, is to utilize the road, the facilities, and the utilities that's already there on Elizabeth. So that's one of the reasons why we did that. So yes, our plan was, a question was asked about the width of the pond. So it's 145 feet wide. It's about 400 feet deep. So we did calculate and call and then kind of hold off a lot for the stormwater. That may change when we get into the engineering. I don't think it was just poor planning or low financial means of the project. It was more of just the road needs to be vacated. We know that. But if the road wasn't vacated and we do get the rezoning, we can still as well put the same amount of facilities on here, just leaving that slot of land out front that we seen and utilize the right of way that's there. So it's not the cart before the horse. It's just the way we submitted it. We did get pushed from November to December to now. So a lot of things played a factor on why we're here before the right of way got vacated. So just want to bring that up.
So just to clarify.
Yep.
Can you, because I think it was asked before and it was that the project couldn't move forward if the vacation didn't take place, but you seem to indicate that even without the vacation, you could.
It'll be challenging, but the vacate is wanted and needed. Right now, it's a paper road. We don't really want to put in. Our goal is to make this affordable housing, so it is affordable. The more we spend on putting in facilities, roads, it becomes not so affordable. And so based on the neighborhood, we want to make it affordable. We've built over 37, I believe, homes in the neighborhood now. We made them all affordable. We do that with, efficient building practices. And so this is just part of that, just trying to do it as efficient as possible. Same thing, paying the engineer to pre-design something, coming into P&Z and having to change it again. Big builders do it all the time, but we want to make it affordable, and we did not want to do that. We very well can, but it's just wasting money that at the end of the day, our end buyers are paying for that.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Member Grant.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think I want to address staff with a question, and maybe it'll frame up my concern of the direction the discussion goes about cart before the horse. There is a land use designation that was assigned to this property at some point in time, and a paper street exists. Could the development of the property, based on the current land use and zoning, be accomplished without opening that street? Let's just be facetious and say one home on the red box to the west of the road and one home on the red box to the east of the road. I think your answer would have to be yes.
It would be yes. I don't know if that would be financially feasible.
I'm not into finances.
Sure.
I'm into colors on the map. We're looking at
Yes.
colors on the map, and the applicant's wanting a different color on the map.
Yes.
Whether it's the zoning color or the comparable future land use or vice versa, it's a color on the map, regardless of a paper street, regardless of a platted right-of-way, and regardless if it was an improved road. If it was, I want to build one home on the big box to the west, and I want to build one home on the box to the right, and the land use and zoning provide for that, the applicant would present a building permit and construct it. There'd be no public hearing amongst us and no discussion of anything. It would just meet the building code. Am I assuming that's correct too?
That's correct.
And if I wanted to open the street, and I think that was spoken of earlier, that if I wanted to open the street and consulted with the city, they would say, we have no interest in opening the street, but if you build it to the city standard and we test it, make sure it's good, and when we accept it, it'll become our public street and you can take access to the side yard of the one home on the box to the right and the one home on the box to the left. That sound plausible?
That's correct.
So in this instance, there is no cart before the horse, in my opinion, because we're just coloring the map. A potential density and an allocation for how many you could get on a zoning standard based on side setbacks and height limits and all the sundry matters that are zoning related. The applicant seeks to change land use and zoning. What happens next happens next. Vacating the road based on what your plan is, more than one home on the big box to the west, more than one home on the big box to the right, many homes, maybe quadruplexes, whatever the code allows. So if we approve the color change on the map as requested, or we accept that we can get the number of boxes I want to get based on a less intense land use and a less intense zoning, we still, at this point tonight, would only be recommending the colors on the map so as to speak. Does that sound correct?
That's correct.
Okay, just to make sure everybody's following me here, getting into the weeds with potentiality isn't really what's the discussion. It's a color on a map, one color or the other color. So I just thought I'd add that to the fray, and I'll quit. Thank you.
And thank you.
Member Troutman.
I'm ready to make a motion here. if y'all are ready there.
Thank you. Okay, so number one, first step's close public hearing. I did have one question related to the colors on the map. Is since this isn't vacated, but if we move forward and change the colors on the map, are we also changing the color on the portion, the right-of-way portion?
That's correct. So typically, the properties would be divided down the middle and then allocated to the adjacent properties.
And they'll assume whatever
That's
land
correct.
use is on, since they're both the same, or would be both the same, so, okay, thank you. Member Chapman.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve medium-density residential with the multifamily medium-density R2.
I'll
I guess this
second.
is for,
Or, well, do you need the land use first, or does it matter what order we?
yeah,
do
is it
these in?
separate or?
Just for consistency, we would request two motions, one for the future land use and one for the
Does it
zoning.
matter what order he does them? Okay.
Okay,
Not
I'll make a motion.
Did the zoning one, so.
Okay, yeah, I'll make for that one. For SSA number 7-2025, 1400 Elizabeth Avenue, quadruplex building.
Does anyone care to second that?
Second.
Okay, any discussion before we take a vote? Member Childs.
Are we, so I remember Garad mentioned earlier about the street and the traffic, it not being a collector road. Are we concerned about that at all, or are you still concerned about that?
Actually, I appreciate you asking the question. I was kind of focusing on what we've had before us before about connectivity. I think there was discussion about Rock Pit Road once about how it connects these two roads, so it qualified. You may recall the old school site, and it was coming out on a local street, but it collected to the big road. So I just wanted to reiterate that ambiguity that remains a problem that someday maybe we can address to kind of remove that question that keeps arising about, am I on a collector road or do I drive 5 miles through the neighborhood to get there? That was the point of my discussion.
I remember us trying to clarify that, and we got a lot of pushback. Just trying to just talk about
Navigate
that.
it, yeah.
But yeah, okay. And then the other, yeah, I get my biggest hangup is the not, having that buffer between the single family home and the, and then transitioning to the medium or the high density right there, or medium density. But I think he's a very genuine person when Mr. Williams, right? I think he's a very genuine person, and I totally believe what his intentions are. I guess, but if we rezone it, it will still, even if if they sell it or something, then
But
it
the-
doesn't really matter.
Is it coming back?
Buffer's part of the ordinance.
Is it
so
part of the?
Is it coming-
Well, is it part of the ordinance that between if you have a single family home zoning or land use over here, and then right next to it you have this zoning, that there has to be a good buffer between them?
I mean, the required buffer between multifamily and single family in the code is a minimum of 20 feet in width.
So they have to. So if
So
we
no matter-
rezone this, there's a 20-foot buffer that has to be
Correct.
That's how
around
Royal
those.
Manor Townhomes was.
Well, the other nice thing about
Correct.
it that I like is it's a mature buffer, so he's just gonna leave the trees and, and instead of a
Yeah.
bunch of little sticks that
Yeah.
are gonna grow into it.
So for the code, it has to be they can't touch it, right? So it has to be what's there already. They can clean it up, I guess, right, if it's, brush, underbrush, but the trees, the foliage under the code that Royal Manor had, they had to do a 20-foot buffer, but they said it was natural that they couldn't touch that 20-foot.
That makes sense. And then they still have to have if you're building so many units, you still have to have that retention pond or whatever for.
If that's
And then you have to have so many feet into
Anyway.
to the house.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm good.
Seeing no others, roll call vote, please.
For clarity, Mr. Faison said he wanted to abstain, but according to this form, you only abstain if there's a financial gain or loss.
Okay, thank you.
So you'll vote?
I'll vote.
Okay. Member Troutman?
Yes.
Member Faison?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Childs?
Yes.
Member Scully?
Yes.
Member Garad?
Yes.
Member Gillen?
Yes.
Chairman Aton?
Yes. Passes unanimously on the zoning. You want to go on a roll and get the
I'll,
future land use motion?
I'll make a motion for the future land use motion for medium-density residential for, let me pull it up here, sorry, for SSA number 7-2025, 1400 Elizabeth Avenue, quadruplex build.
Second?
I will second.
Member Gillen seconds. Any discussion on the land use? Seeing none, roll call please, Lori.
Member Faison?
Yes.
Member Gillen?
Yes.
Member Garad?
Yes.
Member Troutman?
Yes.
Member Scully?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Childs?
Yes.
Chairman Aton?
Yes. All right, and just for clarification, that is the R2 medium density zoning we approved, not the original request, but the applicant agreed that they were fine with the medium density residential.
And Chairman, just for the record, I've never spoken to these gentlemen before. I've never met them before. So who I spoke with was a previous owner of this parcel. Okay, just be clear, the previous owner, not these gentlemen. Okay?
You're good. Your questions were great tonight, by the way, so, and your background. I think we're ready for 9D.
All right, 9D is the Christian Court Townhomes preliminary plat. So Christian Court Townhomes, formerly known as Mercedes Townhomes, is a proposed 72-unit townhome subdivision on approximately 7 acres located north of Garden Street behind McDonald's and O'Reilly Auto Parts. Staff has reviewed the preliminary plat for consistency with the comprehensive plan and land development regulations and is making a recommendation of approval.
There's finally going to be something in that circle. Circle to nowhere.
And I'd be happy to take any questions you have from staff.
Let's see, alternate member.
Thank you. When I was reading this, it says that the former property developer, who owns it now?
I mean, since the original plan was built, it has been sold. I don't have, let's see. I don't have the name of the current owner at this time.
So
but I
who's the
believe I
applicant
believe
then?
I believe the applicant is here to address questions. Kim? Hi.
Yeah.
Just making sure.
All right, I'll open the public hearing then for the applicant.
Good evening. For the record, Kim Fisher, I'm the engineer of record for the project. I was just texting the owner. He's out of the country right now because I can't remember the name of the LLC, but he just closed. It did just close, I think either 2 or 3 weeks ago. So the current, but when paperwork was done, it was the former owner. So, and I'm just blanking on the LLC name that he formed it under.
Your client owns the property.
My client now owns it, yes. As of, I think, 3 weeks now, 2 or 3 weeks. He's probably enjoying his time in the Caribbean and not texting me back quickly.
Member Garad.
One question, Mr. Chairman, for the representative. The site plan, the preliminary plat shows your Alicia Lane terminating southward, and I'm looking at the aerial photographs that are provided in the package, and I'm not seeing a right-of-way coming in there. Where does that road go to?
On the aerial, it doesn't. It ends right there, and that's how it currently exists. So I don't know if there's a tree covering or not, but it does dead end right behind, is it O'Reilly's? I'm sorry, O'Reilly's? I think it's where.
understand. So if I reference this on, staff will help me with this, on page 186 or 187, you see the FEMA map. That's the best depiction I can say I see. And in the FEMA map, you'll see it depicts a tract of land says City of Titusville, and it shows a cul-de-sac, and then you see a green line running through it. Is that like a undeveloped but perhaps improved street?
So the cul-de-sac is the public right-of-way portion, which is there. And then there's a loop road that goes around that's actually there and was built,
A loop road as in a traveled way,
a two-way road,
a paved road, is it a public street?
private.
It's a private street. And it terminates end of pavement at the property boundary.
Yes.
And your proposal is to have a two-lane section road terminate at the end of the property boundary.
Well, it's a dead end. There's a dead end that meets fire regulations.
Fully
Yeah, yeah.
understand. That's what surprises me is staff's analysis doesn't provide for either a hammerhead or a temporary cul-de-sac, a turnaround. It dead ends, and for fire apparatus to do that in a 50-foot right-of-way is not possible. So what did the fire folks say about a terminal road that dead ends in a 50-foot right-of-way with no turnaround?
Can I answer? Okay. The requirement for fire is 150 feet. If you extend 150 feet, you have to do a turnaround. If you don't exceed 150 feet, you don't have to have a turnaround. And that's the NFPA rule.
Your whole Alicia Lane is only 150 feet or less?
No, maybe we're talking about two different things. The road loops all the way around. I know, I wish you could point with your finger.
You're saying that the dead end, okay, so you're saying the fire marshal's office has determined that if from the center access of that curve where Alicia Lane meets Alicia Lane, sorry you don't have that plan in front of you, I thought you might. You're saying the less than 150 feet allows you to have a dead-end two-lane section road with no potential for turnaround.
They back out.
They back out. That'd be yes?
I don't really know where you're speaking of. Do
you want to see my?
I know. Can you point?
Sure. Yep, I got that. And what that is showing me exactly what your plat. So you're familiar with your plat proposed,
Yes.
right? In the proposed plat, we'll give you reference lots 37 through 42, and on the west side, it'd be what is tract L through lot 43. The road terminates within a 50-foot right-of-way with no turnaround, no provision for that. I'm getting there.
That is the section that does not exceed the 150 feet, so it meets fire.
And how far is it that it doesn't exceed the 150 feet?
I don't know what the exact dimension is, but that's the NFPA rule is the 150 feet. So that means we're
Right.
less than 150 feet.
Right, it's 148.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so, and potentially, staff, as we recommend this, even though we do have a standard, which is public safety, life safety, doesn't it mean that by recommendation, we can have an enhanced and improved public safety consideration? Not that I'm a fireman, I always wanted to be, but I'm not. But I am experienced to say that dead-end roads at a cusp difference of 2 feet doesn't mean much to a fireman when he's trying to back a truck up with cars parked in the street in a townhome development where the bottleneck prohibits that and they have to back up because they meant to go to lot 46, not 42. So in consideration, you have tracks K and L. Are those water management areas? Dry retention or wet retention? Sorry. May I address the commission while they're looking for the answer? The reason I just mentioned my reason of concern, that 2-foot difference, but more importantly is that when you have a code, the code implementers have to do what the code says. That doesn't mean that that's the best process. It's the best, safest process, but you could be safer. And I'm thinking 2 feet may be warranting a little safer consideration. So what was your response to my question?
They're open space, and I want to back up for a minute. This project is already built. You guys are probably, it's had a lot of homeless, so the infrastructure is in, the water services are in, the sewer services are in, the road is in. We're just trying to pick up the pieces, get the homeless out, and move forward. So this is something we've kind of inherited. You may not, I get that you may not like it. But other than to say that, we do meet the code, we do meet NFPA, There hasn't been an issue. I would completely agree with you. If it was, hey, let's add 2 more feet, this is a little bit different because this is,
Quite frankly, it's not adding 2 more feet. And may I ask, what can be developed on this existing project? You say homeless people, I assume it's not in vacant
townhomes.
land.
Excuse me?
It's vacant land, or are their homes occupied?
No, homeless. There was
So it's
homeless
a
encampments.
It's a homeless camp, as they may refer to it. Okay, germane to that, can they build on this property based on the approved subdivision that doesn't exist but somewhat exists, this street to nowhere? What can be built on this land without a preliminary plat before us?
R3 multifamily, so it would be multifamily development, townhomes, apartments, things like that.
But the code that's in effect could allow that to be built, whatever that is.
That's correct.
And the road is a public road, it's a private road.
That, other than the Christian court, the rest of the roadway is a private roadway.
So alternatively, you can build what the code allows you to build now. You're proposing an alternative design. So all in intent and purposes, I view this as day one. And whether the NFPA requires a maximum of 150 feet, it certainly seems to me that when you responded and affirmed that we don't have an impedance for you to do a hammerhead turnaround, which is most common when you have that kind of architecture and design, you could do a cul-de-sac, but the radius is going to be greater because then the NFPA is going to tell you it's going to have to be an 80-foot radius, and you're going to lose 3 of those lots. A hammerhead design perpendicular to the street allows a turnaround and is an alternate to the NFPA code for an 80-foot turnaround, round cul-de-sac. So would you consider in the preliminary, and you have to go through the final engineering plans on this before the final plat's presented?
Kind of, sort of. This one's a little bit different because the infrastructure is already there. So we're not really building anything. We're going to correct some things, like, for instance, the asphalt's been sitting dormant for 20 years. And asphalt, believe it or not, if it's not being used, it deteriorates faster than if it is being used. So we'll do an overlay on the asphalt.
I think
Then
you're
we'll
going to
have
be
to.
doing a little bit more than that, in my opinion, if it's been 20 years in remission. But my point still remains the same. If a recommendation comes from this body to the city council that this preliminary plat enhance the turnaround for emergency vehicles with a hammerhead design, as an engineer, you're familiar with what that reference is, a hammerhead design?
Of course.
Okay, so does the commission understand what I'm speaking about? Good. So that would mean that you would have to re-engineer, probably a minor engineering change to show what asphalt's being improved. And I'm sure that the minor amount of asphalt that emergency turn would do would be inconsequential to the current water management design. Just my opinion. If it wasn't any alteration that would occur, which you're altering the proposal by these subdivision lines you're showing, so something's altering from the original design.
No, we're not. We're following the same format of what was previously presented and approved by the city and what was previously
Well,
built.
it's hopefully it didn't succeed because they didn't have the hammerhead, and I'm going to make the project more successful by suggesting that an emergency turn, regardless of the recommendation of the fire marshal based on the minimum NFPA code, I think we can get there, and I think it would be beneficial. Certainly, it would be helpful in an emergency situation. That's all I have to ask your questions of. Thank you.
Alternate member.
Thank you. So the first proposal, which became null and void, is my understanding. So this is, it's done, over with, as I'm trying to understand this. And now we're presenting with this. Is this a new proposal, or are you using the prior proposal and going off of that, which is no longer exists according to what was given to us?
Are you referring to the prior proposal 20 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's the same plan we're using.
That's the same
Correct.
plan we're using, so you're going, so basically it was null and void, and you're coming before now to get it approved. So, as what I'm hearing is, you're saying it's,
No, I don't believe so. I believe the question is there a recorded subdivision that this depiction of your preliminary plat is of record?
So what happened, yes and no. So what happened is they got approved final construction plans, and then they went through construction, did construction. The economy happened 2007, 2008, and they never platted.
So the answer is no.
So, well, there was an approved construction set of plans. That's
The legal description is properties by meets and bounds.
correct, because it was never platted.
You answered my question affirmatively. Thank you.
Yes.
So your answer is there is no card on the table. It's a piece of land. It's got improvements, and there's a time here to reflect on that. Unless, and I'll qualify my.
It's not meets and bounds, by the way. It's part of a plat, but
Okay.
it's the same thing. We get to the same place.
Okay, same place.
Yeah.
It's not these little lots on the road.
Correct.
The question then I would have and we get to a recommendation that concerns this and considerations given favorably, I certainly am not going to be the fire marshal. So if staff goes back to the fire marshal and he says, absolutely not, we can't do that, it's no good, then that would be reported to city council, and I wouldn't be ashamed to say I at least gave it a shot. But to make an alteration of the minor consequence I'm speaking of on the end of that road would be inconsequential, I believe, and very germane to what happens if. And we all have to think about what happens if.
We do. I appreciate your feedback. Just know that we are abiding by code. And so we're just moving forward with the way it was designed, the way it was originally built, and just trying to move forward.
Would you fairly consider that in response to it's per code, is it favorable that the commission can make recommendations that exceed code?
You guys are allowed to make whatever recommendations behoove you.
Can I ask our attorney if a recommendation this board were to come forward because of concerns, like I'm sure you're following where I'm going to or where I'm coming from. If so, is it prohibitive for the council or the commission, the members here, to concern something like this as it concerns me as a member, to make a recommendation that it have an improvement that goes a step beyond code, assuming that's not excessive and unwarranted?
You're permitted to make that recommendation, yes.
Thank you. So anyway, as I said, but what I would hope that everybody would consider, it's an opportunity to fix a 20-year-old problem. I think the applicant's representative is trying to fix a 20-year-old problem of a defunct proposed subdivision that's not occupied with taxpayer beneficial dwellings.
Yes, we're just going to differ in our opinion on if this dead end is a problem or not. That's all.
We'll have to see. But you didn't have the answer about the fire marshal. The report says that he was part of the staff's review. I don't see it in
The
anything.
fire marshal is a part of this review and has approved.
Right,
that-
and he
yes.
said it meets code.
Correct.
And my concern is at 2 foot, I'm not sure I'm satisfied that the code is the code and we can't make a minor alteration on my concern. Thank you very much for the delay in my speaking.
Member Childs.
I only know this because my son used to live at a house on the east side of this property, and it was sometime, I think it was last year, this property got a variance for that east side. Is that still in effect? I'm just curious. There was like a variance because of the burn that was back there or something.
Yeah, it was part of it. Part of the variance was, I think with landscaping, because of the old code versus the new code, and then we're still uncovering some stuff as they'll start to clear it up because it was overgrown. And part of it is high and part of it is low. So we know most of the infrastructure that's been put in, but once we do some more clearing, we'll probably have to put in like another swale along that east side as well, which was one of the things we tackled with the variance was some drainage right there. So there is a utility and drainage easement. Actually, I think that easement might exist already because this was a part of a previous plat already. Right. This is like, I think maybe lot one of the overall development that was McDonald's and the auto parts store, but yeah.
Okay, because was it like I was even at I was at the meeting and stuff, but it was something like a 10-foot or 10-foot addition or reduction of a 10-foot.
That's what it was.
Yeah,
Is
something like that.
because there's a utility and drainage easement along the property line, we couldn't do the buffer there.
Right,
Because
yeah.
thank you.
That's right,
It was
yeah.
it was like over a year ago.
Yeah, no, yeah.
But that was what it was, is
Okay.
because of that utility
So does
drainage
this
easement.
take that into consideration, I guess? I assume so, right? Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Member Faison.
So thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Question along the lines of this young man here. And again, I know that numbers are tight and construction costs are high. Could you take it back to the owners to possibly, in good faith and goodwill, consider the hammerhead?
I can ask them, but I also already know how many lots they would lose by doing something. It sounds simple on paper, but the reality is they're going to lose several lots from that. And so I think at this stage, and the cost they have into it, I represent them, I'm not them, but I don't think they will. And, we've been at this for over a year, so they've been paying a lot of money in interest. They just closed, but don't think the interest started. He's been paying interest to the previous owner for over a year.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen this property.
Yeah.
It's gone through some hands. It's gone
Yeah.
through some tough times.
Yeah, for sure.
And there's a lot of work to do to get it even to a buildable state. I completely understand that. But again, just asking for
I'll ask.
our first responders that, if they'd be willing to do that. That's my only question.
I'll ask.
Thank you.
Alternate member.
Thank you. My one question, you said that all the utilities and there is an internal roadway that is not in good shape. But will all the existing utilities, internal roadways, and site improvements that were installed by the former developer, will they be evaluated, tested, and brought into compliance
Yes.
with the current city engineering standards and land development that we have now?
Yes, that's one of our requirements.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Member Garad.
A question for the applicant's representative. When you say that as an engineer, you know that can't work, that's because there's 25 plus feet remaining, which would represent in a paved surface area, a residential street standard, pavement versus right of way. I'm not positive that it can't be done. I'm not an engineer, and I wouldn't want to be an engineer looking at that so quickly to know that. But in my mind, what I see going down there is either 25 feet of pavement and marked as a temporary site, again, referencing a hammerhead, and alternatives where improvements may have to complicate engineering plans. Impervious but rigid improvements can be done, which are subsurface. Pavers are what people see, but they have a gridded batter, which are resilient to the weight, 80,000 pounds of a fire apparatus.
GeoWebs.
Thank you. So either of those satisfy my concern that something is there other than soft sand that gets a truck stuck, and that somehow in the plan it becomes improved to a recognizable degree that the driver of an emergency vehicle knows they can hang a right back up and hang a right out within 25 feet of pavement, which would be a residential street. Again, it's not a right-of-way, so it doesn't warrant 50 feet of width.
I understand.
Okay, so that's where I'm headed when you brought.
Or 24 feet of width. We don't need, if we're talking a hammerhead, not a cul-de-sac, but in order
Right,
for me to
right.
get a full hammerhead in there, I would have to lose units on the end because I still have to maintain my landscaping buffer. Since the landscaping buffer goes up to the edge of the townhome unit, to put a true hammerhead, I have to lose units.
That's again why I suggest an alternative which would provide the weight-bearing surface needed for emergency vehicle and not compromise the landscape buffer, because landscaping can be provided in light of that area, but it would provide that turnaround without being a formal road right-of-way. As I said, an 80-foot radius is what the fire apparatus needs.
So you want to put the hammerhead in the landscaping buffer and get rid of the landscaping buffer? It's not about weight. It's not about more impervious area. It's negligible. But I would have to get rid of the landscaping buffer in order to put the hammerhead. So that's why,
Well, don't sound so holistic. It's not the landscaping buffer. It would be a portion of whatever landscaping buffer would be required along Track K and Track L on the southern boundary of your property. Would that be more correctly said? Some of
I don't know if it's K or L, but whatever is south of those two buildings, those two townhome buildings, which if I remember correctly, that is the landscaping buffer.
And it sounds as if what I'm asking to do isn't a 100-foot distance of pavement. It's usually the length of the truck, and in some instances, it may even be
40
less.
feet plus, but
Correct. So that would be roughly 1/3 of the length of the lot 43, where a landscape buffer wouldn't be
it's
there.
not about the length of, it's where do I put that turnaround? We came in here for a variance, and the variance was specific that we follow the landscaping plan that we came in front of the board in front of. now that would affect that because I would have to put that turnaround, I have to put that turnaround somewhere. So
Help me
that
with the
is,
variance. I wasn't here when that happened. What's the
there was
variance?
a variance for the landscaping that we just spoke about, and so we had to do an alternative landscaping. And so we had to, the landscaping that would normally be on the east, there was a drainage and utility easement that already existed.
Am I
There-
right, this landscaping buffer is to the commercial development?
No, it's to the east to the residential.
Am I looking at this? Well, north is usually to the top, so am I incorrect? So it's actually southeast, I guess would be more correct. I'm talking about the boundary that's against the southern boundary. Yeah, I'm not wrong. It's southern boundary.
But
Determines the-
O'Reilly's right. So in order to put a hammerhead there, I have to have a minimum of 20 feet width is required for NFPA.
And you have
That
25
20 feet, if I'm going to go towards the east and to the west, I would have to take it from the landscaping buffer or I have to lose units.
I'm with you. What I'm asking is, in terms of geographic descriptions, the southern boundary is the terminus of the paved road. I'm asking to
yes.
consider putting a hammerhead perpendicular to that paved surface within the 25 feet of what's called Track K and what's part of Tract L for a distance, as you reported, would be 40 feet, and it would be 20 feet of
side,
pavement. So for 40 feet by 20 feet, it would compromise some degree of the landscaping buffer that was required. Is that my understanding?
That's part of it. And then the other part of it is how close that pavement would be to the actual townhome unit itself. I don't want to have pavement 2 feet from the foundation of a townhome. And if I remember correctly, there's probably only, if it's 20, it could be 20 feet there, but it may be less. So I have to have 20 feet. I have to have a return to grade on the other side. So I would have to lose units in order to get a hammerhead in there.
A return to grade based on asphaltic improvements, impervious asphalt, as opposed to an alternative
Grass.
we discussed.
Grass, I can go 4-to-1, asphalt, I can't.
Grass is susceptible to wear and tear, and obviously getting stuck's the concern I have. So you mentioned the word, I'm sorry, I don't recall.
I'm sorry, a geogrid, but with a fire, I believe NFPA, it is a hard surface, but I would imagine your fire marshal would probably want it to be paved. I can't imagine your fire.
Well, he didn't
He
want-
could, it's got to be stabilized, but I'm going to guess, but I'm yeah,
pretty sure
okay.
that geogrids do comply with NFPA. I've seen them used a number of times, so.
Again, I can't have a slope. I hear what you're saying. I'll ask, but right now, I don't know that the owner's going to want to do that. There's going to be unintended consequences to doing that. And I'm not going to be able to have some kind of a stabilized surface that close to a road. Could you imagine if your house, if literally
Well, the
6
truck's
inches
not
to
gonna
a
be
foot?
there all the time.
I'm sorry?
The truck's not going to be there all the time, frankly. And secondly.
Well, if this is our concern, let's address it as a concern. So I
But it
could
is a
also say that the truck's not going to be there all the time, and for them to back up 150 feet's not, that's
big
what the
deal.
NFPA is for.
Right, and when cars are parked in the streets, as they oftentimes do, and multiple family dwellings notwithstanding their townhomes, therein is the impedance.
That's a code enforcement issue.
Yeah, well, you can't call a code enforcement
Okay.
officer during an emergency situation to ask people to
All I
take 30
can-
days to
I
move
hear
their
you.
car. Quite frankly, I'm not satisfied with your answers. But I'll go with where I am right now. I'm just not satisfied with your answer.
And I'm sorry, I'm just trying to let you know that there's not room without losing 1 to 2 units per side. I can attest to that. I'm confident in that. We would have to lose units.
Would you
because
do me a courtesy?
Sure.
And staff can help me with this.
We'll do a plan.
I've voiced my opinion. I think it's a valid opinion. All opinions are valid, right?
Yes.
But my concern is valid because potential can be there. So for that, and also to respond to your concern, losing lots or what the fire marshal do, my suggestion is how this goes on the approvals where it goes. But between now and the city council meeting, go back and see if you can't hardline
Yes.
the answer to be more analytical. And perhaps if analytically speaking, it can be done and it doesn't suffer grade change problems or impact the foundations, and the fire marshal will accept the geogrids as a substantially improved area supporting 80,000 pounds of truck weight, and that it is in fact an alternative to the NFPA. If all that works out to say, yes, we not only can do it, we will do it, then I feel a lot better tonight than I
Yes.
would be otherwise.
I will commit to that.
Thank you very much.
Member Childs.
I just want to make sure, the fire marshal though, so when the fire marshal reviews this, is his opinion based solely on the code? Or would the fire marshal possibly give an opinion that, oh, well, that's the code, but, I mean, because really, we have codes because that's what I think probably a fire marshal probably said, hey, we need at least 100 feet. And then someone's like, well, let's make it at least 150 feet. I don't know. So that's why we have the code, and that's why they have it already, is because they decided on 150 feet. So if it's anything less than 150 feet, then, they've already said, hey, that would be fine, because that's how they codified it.
Just to speak about experiencing codes, you may recall in Florida, they used to use 3-tab shingles, and you could staple them to the stapled tar paper on particle board housing. And then this hurricane blew through Miami, ripped all the houses apart, and all these people got together and they rewrote the code. The code today is different. Another example of code
Lots of
changes.
code that's different.
I live in a home built in the 50s, and the home's front door opens outward. I owned a home in the late 70s, and the code required the door to open inward. And you buy a home today, and it can open outward. And fire codes used to have 60-foot radii for a cul-de-sac, and then they had a problem, so they increased it to 80. Codes usually respond to problems, and they are subject to change. They don't
I haven't heard
go
that we've had
backwards
have
usually.
we had a problem with this, I guess? Is
Well,
that
if the
what-
cul-de-sac 60 to 80.
I guess that's why I want to know, would the fire marshal possibly say, the code does say 150, but right here, this would be a problem. Do you know if the fire marshal would actually give an opinion other than, hey, this meets code or not?
I can't really speak.
I would think so. I
Yeah.
would think that a fire marshal who they're responsible for safety of the citizens would see it and then say, you know what, it meets code, but I'm just gonna give my recommendation that they do this too, because I don't want to send, my men down here and women down here to, address a fire or emergency and there's a problem. And so I would think that the fire marshal would say something. I'm not trying to discount what you're saying. I'm just saying that,
And
that's why we
typically
have it.
review, staff, regardless of fire utilities, we often offer, suggestions or recommendations, but those are just that. So
Right.
typically,
That's why I
those
would
are
like them to
offered.
at least explore this.
I
And
understand,
If you're willing to
yeah,
explore it, I think it's a worthy exploration. And to,
I think maybe just talk to the fire marshal and see what he really thinks.
We did, we've gone over this extensively
And
with.
what did he say?
They're fine with it, but we went over doing a 13R system versus regular fire hydrants. So this has been looked at, and I think we've gone through 2 fire marshals since we started this project. But so the fire marshal was very much involved in this.
Okay.
well, I would appreciate it if you do explore this. And I'd like to
Absolutely.
know what is the outcome to that, if I can, how our staff projects it. Just my interest in whether it's worthy or not. That'd be my helpful opinion if it's of any help. One thing I would add is something, the experiences I've had lead to my questions. I apologize. But these kinds of projects also lead the fire marshal to the problem of on-street parking, and all the good codes in the world don't prohibit the parking in the street that impedes the vehicles. And the response is always the same. Well, call code enforcement, and they go to write parking tickets, or they put a no parking sign.
HOA,
It just
the HOA.
blends itself into a problem. So doesn't mean you could have this improvement I'm looking at, not have cars parked in the street. The fire truck can't go the first foot of the 100.
They'll use it as parking spaces.
Right. But appreciate your looking into it.
Sure.
That's what I think is important.
Alternate member.
Thank you. I'd like to say thank you for bringing this up, because what I'm hearing is you have a concern for the citizens, the neighborhood, the potential, and looking out for the community. And what I hear on this side is the builder doesn't want to lose 2 spots or 2 townhomes or 2 building sites. and we're willing to overlook the potential safety issues of the community. So I would like to look at the safety of the community, even though that they do say it is within code. We have a reality. The reality is people will be parking on that street. You cannot bring EMS, 911 to an emergency. Your mother's at the last lot and they can't get in because there are cars there, even though the fire marshal said this. The reality is what we're looking at, and our job is to look at what the community impact is, and if we can protect the community, and if the developer is, please be willing to listen to that, because if we just go for the developer and not the community, that is my concern here. I would really like you to present it with such. I think 2 lots in order to make a turnaround, to make it safe for everybody, just a little bit is worthy to be considered. And we would really appreciate that in looking at the community's best interest. Thank you.
Member Faison.
Well, you mentioned HOAs. Question. Right now, currently, how much do you guys plan on selling each unit?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the whole,
How much do you guys plan on selling each unit?
oh, I have no idea. They don't tell me that stuff.
Oh.
Man, I wish. Then I might realize I'm in the wrong profession.
Well,
I
no,
have no
no,
idea.
no, no, no. I think you're doing quite well. All right, so the reason why I said that question, all right, is again, the median income for the city of Titusville, there's been a lot of development here that isn't for the residents that live here, it's for those who are coming. So for the gentleman over there, thank you guys for building affordable homes. I've seen some of your
I call them
products.
attainable homes.
Attainable.
Attainable homes.
Yeah, attainable for whom?
Well, affordable sounds, it's got that stigma.
Doesn't it?
Sounds
Doesn't
like it's
it?
attainable.
Yeah.
Attainable.
Well, again, so on this panel, I'm probably like the biggest stickler for the price of homes and for the residents who live here. And so I was just asking that question, just, because you had mentioned HOA, and we hadn't talked about who these homes are being built for. The lots themselves are 20-foot wide. It's not very, these are townhomes. So
These are townhomes, yes.
and 2-story, 1-story,
2-story.
2-story. So about 1,900
Has
square.
garage. But I'm sorry, what was your question?
So how big are they approximately?
I think they're about 1,500. I think they're about, I'm going to go with 12 to 1,400. I believe they might have different sizes, but I haven't seen the architectural renderings or building footprints yet. So I'm guessing, I don't want to be on record that I said something definitively because I really haven't seen that.
No, it's okay. And
But
again,
we have a minimum. We have a minimum that is required, but it's pretty low.
okay. Well, I would love it if the owners could make these in the price range of those who are from here, not those who are coming.
I think it kind of has to. I think that's kind of the market in the area is going to be, I'm sorry, and I'm from the Orlando side, so the price here is a little bit different than the price over there. So, and I don't want to pretend like I'm an expert on what your prices are here in Titusville versus what they might be in Mims or versus what they might be in Rockledge. But I'm usually they put them at some kind of a market rate and not something elevated where this one's located. I personally would love to live right behind a McDonald's, but
And O'Reilly. All right. So
I will be heading there in a few minutes.
so again, I don't
O'Reilly's.
want to insult your intelligence. You are a very bright woman. But when we look at the median income for the city of Titusville, which is about 70,000 now, when it used to be around 56,000, and so when we do between 80 to 120% of that, that's not the median income of those who live here, it's of those who are coming. And so for a house for those individuals are roughly, I think at this point, $350,000. And when we're looking at townhomes, I'm looking at probably in that ballpark between 280 to 320 each.
I would probably, because I think I heard the rule of thumb that a townhome's going to be usually 50 grand lower than the houses it's surrounded by, is what I heard once upon a time. I'm not really on that side, but I've heard that. I don't know if it's true or not, but I would imagine they would have to be I don't, in my opinion, but again, I just dirt girl, but I wouldn't think something like a 400,000 townhome would work here.
No,
So,
I
I mean,
said
I
about-
kind of
about tw-
exaggerated it, but
Well,
yeah.
no, so my dumb math, and I'm not very smart. So I
Me
said
neither.
about 280 to 320 is about what the going price of those are going to be, approximately. If I just had to kind of just spitball something out of my mouth. But okay. All right, anyways, I was just asking a question about affordability or attainability of our current residents, not those who are coming. That's
Yeah,
all.
I got you.
Thank
Thank you for that.
Member Chapman.
I just wanted to add, I believe we're at 53,000 for population right now. Oh, median income. I thought you said population. I apologize. I was like, wow, that's higher.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any cards, Lori?
Stan Johnston.
Stan Johnston, and I'd like our clerk to make some notes on this, is that I have some objections to this project, and I would like especially the planning to take special attention to what I have to share with you. The present plan has no survey, with the preliminary, no survey, no plans, no sketch plat, no approval of constructed utilities, no St. John's permit, no variances approved. They're all expired. All the permits have expired. No other permits completed. And there's no PE approved plans. I know a little bit about this project. Why? Because I reviewed it. It was done by Lois Ward & Associates, who I used to work with. The grading plan, they need a grading plan with this to go with the building that she's going to propose, which is not shown here. The grading plan is very complicated, very complicated. It needs to be done. We don't have a grading plan for them to build. We don't have a grading plan to examine. There's no plans. This shouldn't even be before you at all. This is a mistake by a planning department. Should never have a preliminary plat without a survey, without all these other things. We have nothing. Everything's expired. That was 20 years ago. Codes have changed. This is absolute nonsense. I'm saying our planning department is full of nonsense. I'm speaking from you as a professional engineer who's done numerous subdivisions here in Titusville and numerous site plans. I don't see what the heck's going on here. It just doesn't make sense. I've had problems with Mrs. Fisher. I went to the Supreme Court regarding the suit. Mrs. Fisher, and she has lost that suit. And I'm going to send you an email tonight regarding serious problems with Mrs. Fisher's work on Elizabeth Oaks. I'll send that to you tonight. So I'm very much against this project. I just think it's just absolutely ridiculous for you to consider this. It should be, you can, if you're going to think about approve it, you ought to at least, what do you call it? Not wait, do it, table it. That's what I was trying to think. So, because it's just not, it's just complete nonsense. And I'm here to answer any of your questions as an expert.
Thank you. Any more cards, Lori?
No more cards.
All right, you have any rebuttal from the applicant?
I don't think I need to rebuttal that, but if anybody's got any question, I'm kind of curious what Supreme Court I lost, but that's okay. It's irrelevant. But if you guys have any other questions.
Yeah, my questions for staff as it relates to Mr. Johnston's comments is what is required?
So I don't know if this is possibly due to the state law change to where basically we had to amend our code to eliminate the sketch plat process to where the preliminary plat basically took the place of the sketch plat. But there are minimum submittal requirements for the preliminary plat, which staff has reviewed and have met those requirements.
So the grading plan, is that not required anymore by state law?
I would have to go into our land development code. I mean, there's about 25 items here that are required. Location map, survey tract with the following informations, boundary tracts, existing contours, location of jurisdictional wetlands, surveys of trees and sampling and understory vegetation.
So all of those items have to be done after this process or before this
That is required as
process?
part of the preliminary plat submittal. But staff has reviewed those plans, and you're only seeing the cover sheet and the preliminary plat. So there are site plans that are associated with this.
And the survey has been completed and you've reviewed it?
I personally have not reviewed it, but I do know that that is a submittal requirement, and staff has reviewed the preliminary plat and has stated that that does meet all of the land development requirements.
Mr. Johnston?
The surveys and all supporting documents aren't typically provided at this stage to the board, so.
But they're a requirement that they be completed before it gets to this stage?
I believe that they have been reviewed as part of this submittal. Yes, that they have been submitted.
Mr. Johnston?
They don't have she doesn't have a contour map. She doesn't have a plan approved by Mrs. Fisher as far as the grading and as far as variances. You've got all kinds of variances that have been.
Variances run with the land. So typically variances do not expire unless, there's substantial changes made on the property.
The variances did, but the thing is you're supposed to have some plans that you talked about, contours and so forth like that.
No, you have to come up to the podium if you're going to speak.
I'm sorry. Excuse me. In other words, like I just said before, you need to have plans that are reviewed by Mrs. Fisher. She hasn't done the plans. She hasn't done the contour plans. She doesn't, for example, for the buildings and so forth. She doesn't have it. You don't have it.
Thanks for your comments, but I've got to rely on what staff has said, so. Member Garad.
The question for staff, and I think I understand it's a little clearer, in the staff analysis review recommendation, this is dovetailing, and I think Mrs. Fisher, commented to that this is dovetailing this preliminary plat over existing approved plans from 20 years ago, and that staff's review of that was those standards still in effect today are satisfactory, and this can move forward as a preliminary plan for review and recommendation.
I believe that's correct.
And what staff mentioned, you may recall, we had a presentation Mr. Parrish gave us on the statutory changes that affected the subdivision process. And the short of that, which I gleaned, was the new state law says faster, faster, faster with less, less, less. I recall it very clearly that way. So it's kind of like the world changed, and it wasn't to favor delaying or requiring extraneous information.
Alternate member.
So it's my understanding that as it says here, that the final plot was not recorded and the approval subsequently became null and void. So when things become null and void, and then 20 years later, it's resurrected again.
That's what staff said they feel that's correct.
And so then the laws and the rules and the standards and what is required we don't have to do an updated version?
No.
We just get to and assume because staff is saying, well, they think looks okay, but we haven't seen any of it. We're just on the assumption that that is staff, that's what you're saying, but what you gave us was it became null and void. So if it became null and void, now how is it now acceptable?
So it's based on the layout of the original submittal, but all of the current code requirements will still have to be met with the updated plan.
We've already closed the public hearing. Member Garad.
What, it's odd to me that it's kind of swirling around. I have these development rights that exist, and I'm proposing a preliminary plat, which took me a little aside during the original discussion. The staff's review, and I know that's perplexing because there haven't been a lot of preliminary subdivision plans before us since the statute changed.
This is the very first one.
Right.
So that's what I am assuming that there
Yes.
are these issues.
And I'm
that
glad you further enhanced my point. This is the first, what we've seen since the state changed the subdivision laws, essentially, as a lot of statutes did, took away local governments' design of rules and how they implemented those rules. When I came here back to Titusville, I was kind of a little confused because they termed things a preliminary sketch. And I mean, what's a sketch? A sketch, in my experience, based on surveying, is a rudimentary drawing without a lot of detail. It's a drawing. When you get into surveys, that's a whole ball of wax. The representatives have spoke about the ball of wax and how detailed it is. And then now, the first one up is this particular subdivision that's come to us not as a preliminary sketch, but as a preliminary plat. And the schedule of what's in front of it and what's in behind it, like it's a napkin drawing you did at home to say, I want 4 lots, or it's very detailed. This is very detailed, but it's not detailed to the limit. You could build it because you have to engineer it, but the engineer said, I've got an ace in the hole. I have my old approved subdivision engineering plans, and the staff has said that's satisfied. It's almost like my fire marshal. I'm arguing with my fire marshal argument with myself. This one's a very puzzling circumstance to me, and I'm glad you said this is the first one out of the box that we've seen under the new rules. Thank you.
All right, we've closed the public hearing, and I see no further questions. What is the pleasure of the commission?
We might have to wait because I don't think Lori stepped in.
Oh, okay.
Right. So we can't.
We'll take a quick pause and wait on that.
Oh,
clerk.
she's coming.
Okay.
Well,
All right, Member Childs.
I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval of the preliminary plat for 90 Christian Court Townhomes.
Do we have a second?
In the spirit of my inquiry, I would like to second the motion and note that the applicant's representative is going to explore my concerns about the hammerhead. Thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Roll call vote, please, Lori.
Member Gillen,
Yes.
Member Garad,
Yes?
Vice Chairman Childs,
Yes.
Member Faison,
Yes.
Member Troutman,
Yes.
Member Scully,
Yes.
Chairman Aton.
Yes. All right, that item passes unanimously. Second opportunity for petitions and requests from the public present on items not on the agenda. Okay, seeing none. Any reports, city staff?
No reports.
City attorney?
No report.
I have nothing, other than I hope everybody had a nice holiday. We're a little rusty after coming back. Member Garage.
Just as a member of the commission, I've been noticing really, and it shocked me today when I looked at a video play that here I was in 2023 and I went, God, it's 2026. Where did time go? Over the years, I've noticed something in the procedure of the staff's reports, categorically speaking, that all of them begin with boodles of information. And sometimes I'm a layman because I don't know where these places are, or I'm not familiar maybe with the area. They're newer places than when I grew up here and when I came back here, so I'm puzzled. And what I invariably find myself doing 100% of the time is I have to scroll through the multiple pages to find where's the picture of where this is, which is time consuming and gets confusing because then I find the picture and I get to scroll back through 400 pages of a lot of literature. I myself would like to ask staff and maybe seek support for others like kind that if you could look at reformatting the way at least the P&Z sees their agenda, I'm not speaking for city council at all, that we could maybe begin with this is the agenda item, here's where it is picture, so I can familiarize myself when I start reading reports about Queen Street or Hopkins Avenue or US 1. It would really help me feel truth where I'm at.
Are you referring to the staff report or the agenda?
Just using any one example here.
Okay.
So
I think where he's going, and I kind of agree that there certainly, I don't know, you could probably find an example. It's probably page.
yeah, I think Tranquility Night was the best one I had.
But, you know,
You got
there's
400 pages. Yeah, if I can just,
page, you know, what is this page? 186 is pretty informational, shows you where it is in the cities, where it is in the
Bingo.
map. If that page was either duplicated up toward the beginning about where the adjacent properties and all that that table is, would be helpful, just to give you your bearings.
Okay. I can
Instead
definitely
of having to bounce around.
take that back
so I
to
have to
staff.
tell my
for-
wife that she can actually take the Tesla screen and blow it up and see where the intersection I'm trying to turn on instead of telling me, honey, I don't see where that road is. So anyway,
Yeah, I'll definitely
I'm
take
not
that
making
back
fun
to the
of her.
staff for consideration.
I don't know. You may want to ask her after she watches this whether you're making fun of her or not. All right, seeing no other reports, we'll stand adjourned.